welcome to The Current. You're tuned into The Current for inspiration on embracing change, sparking curiosity, and shifting perspective. My name is Erin Curran, and I'm your host. And today with me is special guest Samuel Kuykendall. Sam, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Sam is a visual artist and improviser by trade and passion, I would say. And he's here to talk with us about all of his various pursuits here in Biddeford and elsewhere in Maine. And I'm just delighted to have you. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
So to begin, Sam, you call yourself an improviser.
Yes.
Would you say you're a professional improviser?
I think so, yeah, because I have gotten very small paychecks for it at this point.
Excellent. And your improvising has led you to form a company.
That's right, yes. Yes and Company is a group that I formed at the beginning of, well, just before the first of the year of 2019.
Yes, so a relatively new company. Mm-hmm. And Yes and Company is a group of improvisers. What do you do together? Do you improvise?
We do improvise, true to the name. What we do is first off, we're a long-form improvisational group.
What does that mean to the viewers? Because I don't know that everyone would know what that means.
Long form versus short form is, short form's typically what you see more often, like if you've ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyways?
Yes.
Where it's typically, they're very short games that the improvisers play. So they do a lot of step out games, things like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just sort of punchlines quick. And with long form, the emphasis is taking an idea and developing it into a longer story.
Yeah.
And it may be multiple scenes in different locations, but there's a progression, and you get to actually watch something more akin to a television show.
Yeah. That has sort of themes or plot lines that come back, or characters that come back, like you said.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm curious, Sam, what drew you to improv, if we just backtrack a little bit, and we'll come back to Yes and Company.
Yeah.
What drew you to improv in the first place? Like, when did you discover improv as an art form?
I discovered improv I discovered it before this, but about 10 years ago, I was living in the Bangor area.
Okay.
And my brother and sister-in-law and a group of their friends formed a group called the Focus Group. And my brother has always been an actor. He went to DePaul University in Chicago and studied there. And so I've always been, theater adjacent.
Okay.
As his younger brother, but never had necessarily an interest in learning lines and being in plays.
Right.
But so when they formed this improv group, they had their first show, and I went. And I was very interested, and they invited me to come to one of the rehearsals and try it out. And so after trying it out, I seemed to have kind of the natural mindset for improv, that agreeable nature, and having basically improvised with my brother on the couch for years, just doing back and forth, adding to each other's stories. It came very, very naturally to me, I think.
Yeah.
And so I started performing with them up there, and they're in their 10th year now. We just celebrated a reunion earlier.
Oh, that's great. So the Focus Group, based in Bangor, is an improv group that your brother started, and that's how you got your start, or first taste of improv.
Exactly.
Yeah, neat. And I really like your point about having kind of just being agreeable by nature, and that working with improv, and not really wanting to learn or memorize a script. One thing that I've discovered in doing improv with theater folks, or people who also do theater or maybe came from theater, is that it is like a very different skill set.
Yeah.
You almost have to unlearn what you learn when you're a theater actor to do improv.
Yeah, you do. And there's a lot of things in theater that help you in improv. They don't necessarily mean that you'll be a great improviser, but they're things that I've had to learn as I went along. Things like blocking and staging and, always facing the audience.
Yes.
There's a tendency to be like, what? Oh, right, there's potentially somebody watching me. I should aim the jokes at them or the scenes at them.
Yeah.
And also just being comfortable on a stage.
Right.
Is something you have to get used to. And if you have a lot of theater experience, that's probably in your back pocket already.
Yeah. So coming back to this company you started, Yes and Company, I've been to a couple shows, have really enjoyed them. I know that there's a particular sort of angle that you work with in Yes and Company for these long-form improv scenes. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the angle of Yes and Company is in particular?
Certainly. We invite a local celebrity to each of our shows to talk about their life, talk about how they got to be in the positions that they are. And the reason we do that is there's so many interesting people in the greater Portland region and the greater Biddeford region that are doing really cool things.
Yeah.
They're setting examples through their businesses, through their public actions, either in politics or in media. And we see these people all the time. We see what they do. We go to their businesses. We eat at their restaurants. And I thought it would be really interesting to hear a little bit more about them, to know, okay, so this person is, a James Beard award-winning chef, recognized around the world, and basically live next door to this person. How does one go from, working at the local sandwich shop to then owning your own restaurant? And so we wanted to get them to come up and tell their stories and sort of inspire our audiences so that, literally, if you're sitting there in the audience and you're like, oh, wow, that guy didn't know what he was doing when he was 21 either.
Yeah.
I don't feel so badly right now that I'm kind of spinning my wheels because now they're successful. So they inspire our audiences, but then they also inspire the improvisers in the group to create scenes based off of their stories.
Yeah, and these scenes can be really loosely based, right?
Yeah.
It's maybe taking one or two elements and just riffing on them, and maybe going in totally different directions.
Exactly. We're not retelling the stories that they've already told.
Yeah.
That would be redundant, and that's not what we're interested in.
Yeah.
From a 5-minute story, you can get. If it's a story about backpacking in Alaska, that can inspire us to use Alaska as a location or backpacking as an activity.
Right.
Or if in that storytelling the guest uses a strange sort of term or phrase,
Yeah.
That can oftentimes inspire us. It can be anything, really.
Yeah, I love the premise, and I love the whole community element, and really getting to know people by hearing their stories and by hearing their stories in their own words.
Right.
And like you said, sort of peeking behind the curtain of what was their initial inspiration and sort of connecting the dots for people. How do you become successful? How, because it just can seem so mysterious, I think, for the layperson.
Sure.
I wonder for you, like, what is satisfying about doing improv for you? Like, when do you know you've like had a good show, or like when do you feel gratified in the act of improvising? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I'd love to. What you just asked there of how do you know when you've had a good show? That question was posed to me by a mutual friend of ours, who's also an improviser, Meg.
Yeah.
Asked me that once, and I went home thinking about that question, what makes a good show? And after that, she and I started meeting on a fairly regular basis to talk improv and really get into that of what makes a good show, because it means something different to every improviser that does it, what you get out of your experience. For me, what makes a successful show is, first off, knowing that I performed well, that I didn't negate anything that any other improviser did, that I helped all the improvisers on stage.
So you didn't block
Exactly.
someone's offer, for example?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be negating, yeah.
Yeah. You want to always support people in their ideas and the scenes,
Yeah.
and that helps progress it. So just sort of the fundamentals of improv.
Yeah.
If I've honored those, that's sort of a base level of a successful show. But then on top of that is we're always trying to make a connection with the audience. There's this beautiful thing that happens in an improv show. If anybody's never been to a show, I highly recommend that you go, because it's a micro community in that room.
Yeah.
And everybody there is experiencing the show in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you create these group think environments. And part of that's from in our shows, the stories that get told. Everybody in the audience hears that story, and then they see how it gets changed by the improvisers and what they use. And it's just this beautiful moment.
And I like too that you mentioned everyone's in this kind of group space and group think, this micro community, because it's like a once in a lifetime show.
It's highly ephemeral.
Yeah.
I have a friend from the focus group who had a great quote. He said that improv shows are like dreams. People don't want to hear about your dreams, and they don't want to hear about improv shows that they weren't at.
That they weren't at.
Because it just doesn't translate. You really do have to be there.
Yeah.
And be a part of that.
Yeah.
And so what makes it successful is making those connections with the audience, and you get signs of that through their response, whether it's laughter. Sometimes it can be dead silence, but if you're doing something sort of poignant or something very highly nuanced, if it's space object work where you're pantomiming using something and the audience is dead silent, but you can feel that they're with you.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful connection.
Yeah.
Because in the end, you're making a group of 20 to 60 people basically pretend together.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful, because for the most part, they're adults that come to our shows.
Right.
Who don't pretend on a regular basis.
Right. I think that's such a great point, that as adults we tend to put play and pretending and even a lot of times movement and dance into categories stuff that kids do.
Yeah.
I'm an adult, I'm a serious adult, I don't do that sort of thing. But to your point, and we're both lovers of improv and we both do improvisation, I think that it's such a great outlet, an expressive outlet. It's such a great release for adults to engage in play and to therefore keep growing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's how kids grow, right? Is to play.
Yep.
It's how they figure out their world. And as adults, we keep growing when we're engaged in these spontaneous interactions that require us to be super present.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to be super present.
Yeah.
And it helps you communicate in real life too.
Yeah.
Through learning to pay attention to somebody and really, not just to what they're saying, but how they're saying it, if there's something underlying, what it is they're saying. Because in these scenes, a lot of times people have an idea they're trying to put forward, and you can't just come right out and say, okay, this scene is going to be about a guy who's afraid of swimming. You've got to show that.
Right.
Without actually saying it a lot of the times.
Right. Show, don't tell.
Exactly.
Right. So, transmitting that fear or that apprehension through your tone or your body language. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, if someone did want to come to an improv show, where might they look up and find an improv show? In the Biddeford area?
In the Biddeford area, yeah.
Or elsewhere, places you like to go to see improv and perform improv?
Well, the whole state of Maine is really fostering a lot of improv at the moment.
Which is great to hear.
Oh, it's phenomenal. We'll sort of start north and come south. As I said, if you're in the Bangor area, there's the focus group, and they perform monthly at Between Friends, Next Generation Theater.
Oh, cool.
There's a group in Bar Harbor called Improv Acadia, and they perform, I believe, every night in the tourist season.
Yeah. And they're right by the Criterion, right?
Yes.
In downtown
Yep.
Bar Harbor.
Just a few doors up from there. And they're phenomenal. There's a group in Farmington called Teachers Lounge Mafia.
I've heard of them.
Yes, yeah. It's and most of them, if not all, are teachers.
I love that name too.
Yeah.
Teachers Lounge Mafia.
Yeah, so good. In the Augusta area, there's Capital City Improv. They're very good. I've performed a couple times with them.
Neat.
And then in the Portland region, there's Running with Scissors. They perform the last Friday, I believe, the last Saturday, I believe, of every month at the Fresnel Theater in Portland. There's obviously Portland Playback.
Portland Playback Theater, which is its own kind of type of improv.
Exactly, yeah. And
Audience members, yep.
Yeah, and that's the first and third, right, obviously. That makes way more sense. So first and third Fridays of every month at the Portland Portland Media Center.
Yeah.
In Portland. There's the American Chamber of Comedy here in Biddeford, and they have shows every weekend on Saturdays, 2 shows every Saturday at the Main Repertory Theater in the Pepperell building.
Great.
And then, my group, Yes and Company, performs the second Friday of every month at the Pepperell building here in Biddeford.
Great.
And there's a handful of other groups as well.
Yeah.
That are in the area.
If anyone wanted more information about any of these groups, probably just entering the name in a Google search would come up with. For your company, do you have a website? Is it?
We do. It's yesandcoimprov.com.
Cool. So people could find specific information about your next shows there.
Exactly.
Great.
Yep.
Great. Thank you for taking. I just feel like we went on a geographic tour of improv in the state of Maine. Thank you.
I had to go visualize it and come down.
I didn't expect so much detail. It's great, and it's a great resource. I mean, I heard some new names, new to me, places I hadn't been. I certainly never been to Improv in Augusta, and I have yet to be to the Main Repertory Theater. So I'm excited to check that out right here in Biddeford.
And also there's another group that just had their premiere. Last Friday.
A women's group.
Exactly. Yeah. You Should Smile More.
Yes.
And I went there for the show. It was phenomenal. It is an all-female improv group, and they also invite a female stand-up comedian to come. And so it's a little bit similar to ours, where they use her stand-up routine as inspiration for the show that follows.
That's great. Yeah, another group, and probably by the time this show airs, there'll be another group.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's how fast improv is growing in Maine.
Yeah, they're like dandelion seeds.
Wonderful. I mean, I think there's a hunger out there for folks to get involved in improv and to take improv classes.
Yeah.
And so I think the more the merrier as far as improv companies go.
Well, there's so much variance in the shows. As you said with Portland Playback, if you go to see a Portland Playback show, it's vastly different than if you were to go to see a comedy sports show, which I didn't mention. Also, Comedy Sports is the Fresnel Theater's home team.
Yes.
Both of those shows are vastly different than a Yes and Company show.
And yet they all use improv and the basic improv skills. So I'm so glad to have this array in our home state of Maine.
Cornucopia
of improv. And I want to come back to something that you talked about. How you have a good show, that feeling of connecting to the community, the audience. Everyone's experiencing this unique moment in time and space together.
Yeah.
It's not something you can turn on the TV and then watch again or binge watch. You know, you're there, it's happening in the present, and then it's over and gone. And it will never be recorded or, you know, or happen again just quite like that. I wonder if there's something about that specific form of community and community building that that drew you to improv, in addition to having these sort of natural skills from the get-go, being really attentive and in kind of accepting offers, and having had this experience with your brother improvising on the couch and in dialogue. Is there something that keeps you coming back for that community as well?
Yeah. If I could pick another field and go back to college, which who says I may not, and get another degree, it would be as an anthropology major, because I love people and I love studying people.
Yeah.
In not a creepy way.
Good to know.
Yeah, but the nuances of what it means to be human and how we act and behave is just completely fascinating to me. And one of the ways that you make connections with scripted comedy or improvised comedy, or not even comedy, just one of the ways that you can connect with people is by finding universal truths, things that we all do or a majority of a group does, that when you see, you go, oh, I totally get that. That is something, that's a weird eccentricity about us. Or a beautiful thing that we do, and I think that's what keeps bringing me back, is trying to find those things and make those kind of connections.
Yeah, in a show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a comedic logic that's sort of hard to define, but when you find those logical things and follow it, it's a lot of fun. My mother. One of her favorite things she ever saw in an improv show, and believe me, she's been to a lot of them. I wasn't even in it, so you can't say she loved it because it was her son, but it was a scene between two women, and one of the women was working a coat check at a restaurant, and she got highly emotional. And so she started going through the space object coats at the coat check, looking for a Kleenex in one of the coat pockets. Now, you can't write that out. You sort of write that out, but it's a strange universal truth that a lot of people identify with.
Yeah.
And there again, when you're in the room, in the moment, maybe you know where that inspiration came from.
Yeah.
It's this funny little nugget of specialty.
Yeah, and that is, it's like you said, it's magic because you're all watching it unfold and it's not scripted. And you know that the person is just doing the next logical or right or felt thing.
Yeah.
It's the and I think like you said, as humans, we just share so much more than what we don't have in common. What we have in common just vastly outweighs any differences we have. And so like finding those points of commonality and those universals, like you said, in a show, makes it that much more rewarding. I wonder right now, Sam.
Yes, Erin?
We've talked a little bit about improv.
Yes.
I know that as part of improv, when you're warming up in the green room or behind the stage, or you're doing not only vocal warm-ups to practice what we call verbal agility, but you're doing physical warm-ups to get in your body.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement backstage.
A lot of movement backstage. And movement is one of my passions.
Yes.
And what I'd like to do now is maybe a little move with you. Would you be game with that?
That sounds fun.
Cool. So I teach a movement class called NIA.
Yes.
I'm a NIA black belt. So
I didn't come here looking for trouble.
No trouble here.
Okay.
All love.
All right.
So I have this stack of cards. There are 52 moves in the NIA technique, and these are in random order. I would ask you to pick a card, any card from the stack. And I know before we aired, you said you wanted to do something with your upper extremities, if possible,
Sure.
your upper body.
But I won't force it.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Go ahead and pick a card.
All right.
And let me know what's on the card. Oh, you know, and that one isn't upper extremity, so I'm gonna ask you to pick another one.
Okay.
We'll just
Was that
keep
just because
going.
you didn't think I could pronounce that word?
It was a foreign language word.
Cat stance.
Okay, that has a little bit of upper extremities to it, so we'll go with that. Do you like cats?
I do. I'm a cat convert.
This has nothing to do with cats.
Oh.
So that was an irrelevant question, but it is called cat stance. And so you at home, audience members, I would encourage you to stand up at this time if you've been sitting down watching this show. And I'm going to read the description like we do every episode on The Current, and you can follow along. Sam's going to do what I say, and I'm going to do it as well.
I'm going to try.
The power here. Okay, so stand in place
I can do that.
on one foot and balance yourself as if you were poised to pounce. Oh, it does bring the cat in.
Yeah, and I like it.
Poised to pounce, as if you were poised to pounce. Excellent. Keep the knee and the hip joint of your supporting leg soft and what we call spring-loaded, like I'm ready to pounce. Good. And keep your hips level. So if you find yourself doing this or this, try to keep your hips level. And you can keep your toe down for balance if that helps you. And shift sides if you feel your legs getting tired. Go ahead and shift sides, try it on both sides. This develops agility for all the movements that require balancing on one leg. So this, we're practicing balance with the toe down or up, and we're shifting our weight, practicing balance. To support your balance, sound woo in a sustained exhale.
Does it really say that?
It does.
Okay.
Woo.
So
and what I like to
cats.
do, what I like to do is actually soften my elbows like this. Woo. So you're ready to pounce? Yeah, elbows down, hands and arms engaged. And you can actually press one foot against the leg as well. So you can do cat stance like this. Woo. Yeah, shifting your weight. Woo. You may have seen my dog Dee come on camera earlier. She's very interested right now in what we're doing. It's a dog. We're doing cat stance.
Oh, it makes sense.
There's a lot of well, who knows the history of cats and dogs? What's happening?
Helping.
Woo, nice. What are the benefits? What are the benefits of this? Practicing cat stance improves balance, which improves your ability to move at various speeds, right? Because when we have balance on our side, and we have that as a tool in our toolkit, we can do slow-mo.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which sometimes comes in handy in improv.
Does.
We can also do maybe a little agility. Because when we can hold our balance and rest into that whole foot, then we can feel solid when we shift our weight. That's cat stance. Thank you for doing it at home, everybody. And thank you, Sam, for doing it with me.
Yeah,
cat
it was
stance.
fun.
Yeah, well,
Cat stance.
cat stance. There it is. There you have
I'm
it.
going to do that later today, just to somebody who doesn't know.
Just strike a cat stance. Cat stance.
I might pounce, you don't know.
You don't know. I could pounce at any moment. And like if you ever have a decision to make, maybe you're in the grocery store, you're just not sure what to buy.
Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms.
Or
All brand. Ooh, the decisions.
like it.
Nice. Thank you. Good girl, Dee. Yeah. Dee couldn't wait to be a TV star again, could you, Dee? No. Good. All right. So now we're going to come back. Everyone can sit back down, relax. Nice job, viewers at home. I hope you were saying woo like we were. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the visual artist side of your life. I don't know if you really feel like it's that separate, or if you feel like improv is a part of your visual artistry. But tell me, how do you define or describe the visual art you do, and what does that look like?
I would describe almost all of my art as a collage of some sort. Even if it doesn't look like your traditional collage of something cut up and put together, in some way, at some point in the process of making it, it's a collage, even if it's just a collage of thoughts and ideas.
I love that.
So yeah, I typically make prints. I'm a print maker. That was my area of concentration in school.
Okay.
And
Now, when I think of printmaker, I think of a couple different things like silkscreen or wood block or linoleum or etching, all kinds of things and ways to print. Do you use all those different media, or do you do a specific one? Do you have a preference or a favorite?
I have used all of those in the past. In printmaking, there's basically two categories. There's relief and there's intaglio.
Okay.
And relief is basically where the ink goes on the top of a surface and then gets printed. So that would be like your wood blocks and your linoleum, where you ink it up and it gets printed. And then the intaglio is the etching, where you incise into some sort of substrate like copper or zinc, and then you put ink on it and wipe the surface clean so all the ink goes in there.
Yeah.
I tend to be more of a relief printer.
Okay.
And for years I was employed as a screen printer and did a lot of artwork that way.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say wood block, linoleum, those are very, very satisfying ways to work.
This funny question, well, funny to me, just came to mind, which is like, are there kind of like two schools of people? Like either you're a relief or intaglio, and that sort of like shows in your personality, or?
I think so, yeah.
Have you noticed
very
that
telling.
at all?
Yeah, no, it's
Well, how would you define that or describe that difference? Relief people are more out there?
Relief people perhaps have a shorter attention span, I would
Okay.
say maybe, because to do intaglio, you have to, it's a very long process, even for a small piece. You've got to, take your copper plate, and then you put a resist on the plate, and then you go through the resist with your image, and then you put it in a vat of acid, and the acid etches into all the places you scratched away the resist.
Oh, yeah.
And you take it out and you look at it with like a loop.
Yeah,
And see
magnifying
how deep it
glass,
is,
yeah. So there's more steps.
Yeah, a lot more steps.
More patience required for the different, like, there's drying times and various.
Yeah, it's a lot of setup, and then the printing. Once you get to start printing, there's even more tests to be done.
Yeah.
And going back, and that's not even to say that relief printing can take a very long time too.
Yeah.
Because you still have to carve the plates and print it. But yeah, I think perhaps intaglio printmakers are a little bit more patient.
Okay. And are you, when, I guess, with your visual art, do you still, I mean, I know a lot of, well, I don't know, honestly, but I know some artists might do their own stuff in school or on the side, and then work for a company where they're doing more production, or it's sort of not their own stuff all the time. Is that kind of the situation you're in? Do you still do your own work? Do you show anywhere?
I do still do my own work. I haven't shown anywhere in a long time.
Okay.
A lot of what I do, I give away or sell to friends and family.
Okay.
I'm not above taking money from family. But yeah, for years, like I said, I worked in a screen print shop where I was screen printing T-shirts. But I recommend anybody that's in school for art, find a job like that, whether you're an image maker or a sculptor, whatever field of art you're in. It's very helpful to go out and get into the real world and see how people who do it just as a technical method do it, because you'll learn efficiency first. Nothing against artists, but when you're in art school, you kind of have all the time for your deadline,
right?
And a lot of time to sit there and think and wonder and get it right.
Right.
But when there's a customer who wants the product in the 2 weeks that it's been quoted, you have to do it efficiently, and you have to do it quick and clean.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little technical things that you can learn along the way.
Yeah.
From people that are kind of detached from the process.
Yeah, I could see that. And I guess maybe one great thing to do if you're still in school for art or considering studying art or going into that field is maybe shadow someone at one of these places for a half day or a day. And if there's some company or organization whose work you like, just reach out to them and ask if it's possible.
It's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you ever? What kind of led you to that path of studying visual art as a young person? Were you always drawn to the arts? Were you always sort of creating things, or what inspired you?
Yeah, I started making traditional cutout collages when I was pretty young. Not sure, pre-teens. My father he taught photojournalism for years.
Oh, okay.
And so I've always been drawn to photography, and that's also another outlet for me. But specifically photojournalism, a lot of times the best work, you have to go to places you don't really want to go to, war zones or even the nasty places around us today, if you're going to make really meaningful work. And that's what I've always been drawn to. Like I said, back to the anthropology side, is people is what truly interests me. And so through my collage work and printmaking, a lot of times I react to world news and events and things that really strike me as meaningful, whether it's an earthquake in a third world country where there are just atrocious amounts of people that have been affected, or a mine collapse in West Virginia, something like that. Those are both things that when I hear those stories or read about them, I feel like I want to react some way as part of processing that, and I can't. But I don't really have the luxury of going there and photographing it, and also in a lot of ways I don't want to get that close to it. So, like I said, a lot of my work is a reaction to those things, and it's just sort of a processing method for myself.
Yeah, and coming back to what you said about all your artwork could be grouped under this this category of collage.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you mentioned a collage of ideas even for printmaking. I wonder, do you ever print over or incorporate print with collage and sort of do both? I don't know if we'll have pictures of any of your work to show viewers, but is there any place where we might see some of your work?
Currently, not really, other than social media connections.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you're a real person and you reach out to me, I'm certainly willing to show my work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have done the multimedia methods.
Yeah.
That's one of the great things is also when you get out of school, you realize that you took if you go to school for art, you took a sculpture course and you took a printmaking course and you took a painting course and a photography course, and when you get out, you realize, oh, I can bring all of these together. I can take a photograph and print on it and put it on a sculpture.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to work across different medias.
Are there artists or photographers, artists, collage makers of any kind who inspire you today?
Oh yeah, the collage artist that first got me interested into it is Nick Bantock, who's done a series of books. He's done a bunch of them now, but the very first one I ever saw was called Griffin and Sabine.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful story. I highly recommend it to anybody. I'm not even going to go into what it's about, but it's a beautiful story, and it's all collages of his that illustrate it.
Yeah, and his name is Nick Bantock?
Yeah, Nick
How would you
Bantock.
spell his last name?
I believe it's Bantok, maybe Tock.
And the work is...
Griffin and Sabine.
Griffin and Sabine.
That's the
So
first one.
viewers can look that up and
Yeah.
maybe start on that path down that series.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. There's
Yeah.
Sabine's Notebook and a whole bunch of them that trailed after that.
Neat.
So yeah, as collage artist, he got me very interested. Shepard Fairey, been a big influence on me, and I'm sure most of, if not all of your viewers would be familiar with his work, if not his name. He started the Obey campaign with Andre the Giant, and you see that in the cities, but he also did the Obama poster when Obama was running for president the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's very, very talented and been quite prolific in the last couple of years. And Keith Haring as well,
Yeah.
who was alive in the 1980s. Unfortunately, he passed away.
Yeah, more mainstream artists
Yeah,
now, like sort of
urban.
looking back, but certainly in the fringe when he was producing, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've always been drawn to sort of city artists,
Yeah.
and one of the things that appeals to me about printmaking is that you can purchase prints for so much less
Yeah.
than an original painting, but they're still works of art, and they will, if you're in it for the money, they go up in value, but it makes art accessible
Yes.
to people.
Yeah, that's a great point, because sometimes a painting, you think of a painter spending all this time on this one canvas
Yeah.
and just having one. And
Exactly.
it's a beautiful thing, but that's why it's so expensive.
Yeah, it'd be, $30,000
Yeah.
for a piece, whereas you can pick up a Shepard Fairey piece for like $60.
Yeah.
And it's still valuable because it's an addition
Yeah.
of 200 or less.
Yeah.
But I have several of his pieces. The first one I got the first year he was producing, and I was 16 years old. And it was like $20 in a skate shop.
Yeah.
And it's more valuable than the car I drive now, probably.
Wow. Wow. So I want to pull back a little bit and ask you more about your life, like kind of get a bigger picture of your, I'm always curious in people's lives how they find balance between work and play and nourishment and sleep and all the things we need to do to be healthy human beings,
Yeah.
and connection and community and relationship and all of that. I know improv we talked about was, it's a physical expressive form performance. So you do get some, you're moving your body when you're doing improv. Are there other things you like to do with your body? Is your work physical as a printmaker? Do you like to do other activities that are physical?
Yeah. Printmaking is somewhat physical. It
Yeah.
can be very difficult, very hard on the wrists and arms, so you have to be careful there.
Yeah.
I'm currently working for a timber framing company as well, and that's a very physical job.
I bet.
But mountain biking has always been a passion of mine. I've recently been jogging more, but I'm not sure that's enjoyable yet.
Maybe some of you can relate to that.
Right.
But I think it's always, would you agree that it's fun to mix things up and try in different seasons, bring about different opportunities?
Yeah, and Maine's great for that because I'm not so much of the winter sports activity person, but I love getting out on the water in the summer, kayaking. There's so many great streams and rivers, and even getting out on the ocean if it's placid.
I'm curious if you've tried paddleboarding.
I have not tried paddleboarding.
I've tried it once or twice, and I'd like to try it some more.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be my next sort of experimental activity.
You could do that cat exercise, the Nia.
Yeah, the cat stance on the paddleboard.
That would be awesome.
I think.
Have you ever thought about doing a paddleboard Nia class?
I have not. Unlike, I've heard of paddleboard yoga classes.
Yeah.
Nia, there's a lot more movement and weight shift, so I think that might be one of the challenges.
Maybe start with like pontoons on either side of
Yes,
the
pontoon
paddleboard.
Nia.
Sign me up. I'm there.
Thank you for your enthusiasm. And then I wonder too, like, you know, we hear all these things about like fad diets and what you eat or what you don't eat or anything. Do you have anything to say about food and what nourishes you and how you determine what you put in your body these days? Sam, has that changed over the years?
It does change. It changes constantly for me. I've even gone through years of vegetarianism.
Yeah.
And I did that, not necessarily for any like huge moral reasons, although I always have tried to stay away from the farm-raised meats, just because that's, through documentary films and stories, you see how it's created, and it's a little off-putting.
Yeah.
But the adage of "you are what you eat," I think, comes into a lot of the choices I make and what I eat.
Yeah.
And I'm also I overthink everything. Absolutely everything.
Does that ever get in your way with improv?
Oh no, because see, that's the thing is, the great thing about improv is it simplifies everything. Is in real life, you ask me, what do you want to do this weekend? And I'm like, everything, nothing, I don't know. Because I think everybody has a tendency to feel 15 different ways about a lot of things, whereas in improv, you're like, okay, I'm this person feels this way, and they're certain.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have that sort of the multiple thoughts.
Yeah.
But as food,
Yeah.
back to that, if I eat, a piece of fruit, I have the tendency to be like, wow, it's incredible that a plant was able to grow and turn nitrogen and oxygen and sunlight into this delicious piece of food.
It is incredible when we really stop and appreciate our environment and the people in it, the food in it. I was just enjoying some amazingly sweet peaches.
Wow.
And they're just coming in. Fast and heavy. Get yourself to the store for peaches. I don't know when the show will air, but strawberries are coming up soon.
Rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
Big rhubarb fan.
Rhubarb, and then of course in the fall we'll be into apples and all kinds of delicious things. But yeah, I mean, what could be better than having something that the earth produced whole?
Yeah.
Like this, I think about it often when I eat an orange or a clementine as well. Like this is kind of the perfect packaging. It's the perfect, juicy, sweet snack. So that's great.
Fiddleheads are out too.
Yes.
Just remember, past a couple fiddlehead vendors.
Yes, that's a regional specialty. For sure.
Are you a fan of fiddleheads?
I am.
Yeah.
I do like fiddleheads. I don't like go out and collect my own fiddleheads, but I do enjoy them when they're offered. And I have prepared them a couple times. But yeah, this is unique to our area, fiddleheads for sure. So I guess we're getting towards the end of our show time here, Sam. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you about improv, about art, about a little bit about food.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have anything, any burning desire to share something else about your life or a question you've been pondering lately? Something that's just come up on your radar that's inspiring you or getting you to kind of question something that you've taken maybe thought was true and now wonder about it, or something that's gotten you to shift your perspective at all?
Wow.
I know, it's a big question.
Yeah, I don't think it was just one.
No, it doesn't have to be, but we probably only have time for one.
Right. I don't know about the questioning. That's a little bit, nothing comes to mind at the moment, but a burning desire to share with anybody that would be watching is Maine is just so fantastic. I wasn't born and raised in Maine. I moved here 20 years ago, and it never ceases to amaze me how many incredible people there are in Maine, how many creative people there are, and how much there is to do. And we're coming in, of course, right now it's early summer, and we're really getting into the heat of all the things there are to do around. And just get out and play a part in the fairs and the the shows that are available. You know, there's a lot of theaters that are only open in the summer. Go out, see shows, and support the community.
Yeah.
Because you know, that's what it needs.
Yeah.
And Biddeford right now is growing with new restaurants, and there's so much to do.
Yeah.
That it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a orchard of activity.
An orchard of activity. Go pick the ripe fruits and savor the sweet nectar of the community you're a part of. And who knows, discover new communities right next door.
Yeah.
Go out and meet your neighbor. You never know if it's going to be a James Beard Award-winning chef.
Exactly.
Or someone who has always yearned to do theater but felt too shy.
Yeah.
Maybe your neighbor has a passion for mountain biking or paddleboarding, and they'll be happy to take you out and show you the ropes.
Yeah, try paddleboarding.
Yeah. I mean, I'm plugging all this paddleboarding, but really, it's just something I want to do more of.
Wait a minute, are you in the pocket of big paddleboard?
I'm not. Honestly, it just came to mind. But anyway, it's been so much fun to have you on the show. Samuel, thank you again for coming and joining us on The Current. Audience members, viewers at home, I hope you've enjoyed our talk today, and I look forward to being with you next time. Thanks for tuning in to The Current.